Well, hey, Southern Oregon, welcome back to the Real Estate Show. So happy to have you today. We've got Giles coming in from Mutual Mortgage. He's going to talk about what's going on with the Federal Reserve Bank lately. We're going to talk about predictions of 2024 and also what's going on with mortgages right now. There have been some changes. He's going to address that with us and just the general vibe of what it's like to be buying in Southern Oregon right now, because it's been a hard year. It really has. But, we are still out there listing properties and still out there writing offers and closing properties. And the prices are down, but they're not down very much. It's very interesting. So Giles, Mutual Mortgage, will be joining us in just a few minutes. In the meantime, speaking of prices, let's go over the local statistics for all three counties in Southern Oregon. Josephine County year over year this week, prices are down 4%. The average single family residential home costing $454,222. The number of solds this week year over year in Josephine County are down 55%, with 9 closings in the residential market. The number of listings year over year in Josephine County are down 3%. We had 306 listings on MLS in the residential market in Josephine County this week. So you can see we're week to week having volatility, and sometimes things are really good and sometimes things are a little more mediocre. Let's look at Jackson County next. Prices year over year in residential for Jackson County were neutral. The average single family residential home in Jackson County this week costing $478,077. The number of solds in Jackson County year over year were up 15%. Got some good news there. We had 37 closings, 37 closed in Jackson County in the residential market this week. The number of listings year over year in Jackson County are down 5%. There were 641 active listings in the residential market on MLS this week. Clamath County prices are up 24%. It seems that Clamath for the last few weeks has been our leading indicator. So Clamath County prices year over year are up 24%. The average price of a single family residential home costing $361,277. The number of solds in Clamath County year over year are down 55%, same as Josephine County. There were 9 sales, 9 closings in the residential market in Clamath County this week. Number of listings year over year in Clamath County are down 2%. There were 229 active listings on MLS in the residential market in Clamath County this week. So we're still doing fits and starts, but overall, I believe we have a positive trend line happening in all 3 counties. We'll know for sure the first week of January when we will publish our own radio show results of what we've been tracking all year. And also we'll compare what's going on in the market in general with the MLS reports that come out in early January. So let's get ready to welcome Giles of Mutual Mortgage. He does come on the show once a month, sometimes twice, and gives us some updates about what's happening with the Federal Reserves, the local buyers, the mortgages, and just the general economy locally. We are at the first of the month, and we just are getting in the holiday spirit, and it seems like we've got stuff going on with prices.
Yeah, we believe it or not, I was reading something this week from CoreLogic, and it was saying that the houses are 68% higher than they were before the crash in 2009.
Wow.
I mean, I know it sounds like a pretty staggering, and so I probably need to go and look at it a little deeper. I just literally found this article right as we're going here, but they're just, it doesn't seem to be turning around as far as going down. And it could have been like right after the crash. I'll have to dig into these a little bit deeper, but we're definitely at all-time highs again. And I think even if, this year houses weren't supposed to go up again. And here we are, we're at the end of the year. And where are we going to be? I think nationally, maybe 4.7%, 4.5%. You know, there's some big cities are, they gained a lot. Some big cities did not. We could probably pick, which ones by, how they're governed, maybe not. But as a whole, they're still going up. And I think it's kind of confounding some people that really wanted to wait, hope rates went down and the houses went down and they could pick something up for 250,000. It's just doesn't seem to be stopping. So I don't really know what to say beyond that.
Well, I know that a lot of the buyers just in the last 30 days, I think they gave up waiting and they're just jumping in. And it's not super easy to go through a transaction right now because the world is weird. It's got like so much trauma going on. And then we've got these interest rates. And now we're watching the prices creep up even just a little bit in Southern Oregon. But how much new business are you experiencing? Because it seems like we're having almost the spring like
I
activity right now. And that's unusual for December in Southern Oregon.
Well, last Friday is when things started going kind of crazy for me. I think I've done 14 pre-qualifications in the
Since
last,
Friday?
yeah. So
Wow.
it's insane.
So you're having a surge as well.
Oh, absolutely. And if it
Interesting.
surges with me first, then it'll translate to you guys, obviously, because as people are trying to get pre-qualified. But
Mm-hmm.
another thing that I've been trying to kind of say for a while, if we wait for rates to go down or wait for this perfect environment, maybe right now is kind of the perfect environment. I had
See, I
one.
think so too. Yeah, because I think we're at the bottom. We'll see.
I really believe it too. And rates are coming down. They have been for a couple of weeks. So I'm sure we'll talk about that in, just a little bit. But I had one where they had a price reduction the day before the offer went in, and they still asked for 8,000 closing costs and got it.
Yeah, isn't
So
that interesting?
yeah, I mean, it's just, and maybe that was a one-off, but I'm seeing that more and more and
No,
more.
I think that's getting to be more common. The sellers, especially if they want to buy as well, they're
Mhm.
being a little more accommodating, I guess would be the word.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm not seeing houses fall out for, the rates really like I was. I mean, I wasn't really seeing it, but I would hear it from other people. And I was talking to an agent this morning and she had two deals kind of fall out, but they both were not related to the market. It was related to the asset, meaning the house. There was some issues with a couple of the different properties they found in the inspection period.
Oh, gotcha. So it wasn't financing, it was the house itself.
Yeah, and that's the other reason, just to have a really good agent that you're working with that can catch those kinds of things before you're too deep into it. And
Mm-hmm.
um, but it's not what it was, because that's what I was hearing for a long time, that people were shocked, absolutely just sticker shocked, because they came in and got pre-qualified a year ago, and then they came back, found their dream house, and hadn't had that conversation with their lender. I've been trying to take people aside as I can and meet with them and set new expectations. But really getting in the house right now is, if you can and it makes sense, it's not a bad time to do it. Again, we're not going to charge bank fees to refinance you. So you can come back when the rates come down and you got in your house a whole lot cheaper and you could still have that lower rate. And
Well, and I also wonder, because we're having this surge right now, and traditionally Southern Oregon housing is more seasonal, and it's usually pretty quiet right now, and it's super, super busy. And we only have that experience like when the market is readjusting. So if we're having a surge right now, how likely do you think are we to have that surge going right into first quarter 2024 and not really even slow down? What do you think the likelihood of that?
I think it's really likely. I mean, I think if anybody wants a break, they should probably take it right between Christmas and New Year's, because always at New Year's, I always get a huge surge in people either trying to refinance to, take care of take care of stuff they did at Christmas that they maybe should or shouldn't have done. But people just start reevaluating their life after the first of the year
Well, and
and
they're also with their
what they want to
families, and
do.
there's a lot of conversation. So decisions are made, I think, a lot at the holidays, don't you?
Yeah. So to answer your question, I think it's only going to get busier and busier next year, barring some, unforeseen thing. There is a lot of pent up demand. I've been seeing people on the fence for a long, long time that are jumping off. And I'm also seeing some prices that I did not think I would see, even though nationally and everywhere they're up. I think that the sellers have finally come to the realization that it wasn't going to go up at the rate that it was forever, and they've just got a little bit more realistic with what they might accept as an offer.
Mm-hmm.
They can move on with their lives.
Yeah, it's been interesting listing houses this fall into the winter, because I think we have something, maybe 20% or more people having to do price changes. And it's not like they were out of the zone completely. It's just with the interest rates, and then the buyers, especially, we're having trouble in the lower price ranges, like keeping people qualified and in that like 350 to 450 range.
Well, yeah, and what I look at on my side a lot of times are national averages. So I'm not down on the at the same level as you guys. As far as Jackson County, where do you think we landed for the year? Or is that something for after the break?
Well, yeah, we'll talk about that, but yeah, I think we're going to be up, but not by very much. So we've got Guy Giles of Mutual Mortgage today. We're doing our first of the month analysis of Southern Oregon housing. We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors. We're brought to you by John L. Scott, Ashland, and Medford, Guy Giles Mutual Mortgage, and our local Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. We'll be right back. Well, welcome back to the Real Estate Show, folks. We're talking to Guy Giles of Mutual Mortgage, our first of the month analysis of Southern Oregon housing. And right before the break, we were talking about prices and expectations, and how a lot of people thought the prices were going to go down way more than they are. And now we've got a little bit of a scramble, I think, which is unusual for December.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, that's a break that we usually enjoy, but I think we already had that break. So now we're ready to get back
Yeah,
in.
in May.
Ready to get back in and get some deals done. And I was trying to dissect some of those numbers because it was kind of a headline I had read a few minutes ago as far as, from the peak. So I'll probably try to qualify all of that before the end of the show. I'll look at our commercial breaks. But I am looking at the 20 biggest cities, and other than three of them, which was Phoenix, Portland, and Las Vegas, every one of them was up in the whole country, September through last year. Some of them as much as 6%. So as far as I'm concerned, right now, if houses really haven't dropped a whole bunch with rates going down, I just see everybody getting back in the game, trying to get a house. And I don't know. I think it was a short, nice little break, but I think it's time to get back in the game if you're really thinking of looking for a house.
Well, and I think the price drop was, the predictions were all over the place. Remember this time last year, it was so negative and gloom and doom, and we thought we were going to have a real downturn in prices, even here in Southern Oregon. And now we're looking, I don't know, the year's almost over, 5-10%, depending on the neighborhood.
Wow.
And some of the price changes felt dramatic. There's some really nice, beautiful homes in Central Point, a little bit on the newer side, and those prices dropped down to 390,000, 395, which we found shocking. And then they sold. And then they sold pretty quickly, but there's almost like an invisible ceiling. But those are the houses that would have sold for about 8% more than now, like a year ago.
Wow.
But that's not that big of a drop, do you think?
I think for everything we've been through, that's not really that big of a drop at all. I mean, that was a shock. I look back, I get a lot of alerts on my emails, because I like to tie in with people, a year after they close, 2 years after they close.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just they're still up from where they were before. And it I don't know. I mean, I think everybody thought that they were gonna drop a whole lot more than they did, but it was a huge deal because I'm looking at their rates and they were at 2.6% is what I have them locked in at from back then.
Wow.
And yeah, and so that's a really fun conversation to have when you call them up and say, hey, look, we got you in at this rate, and your house has gone up, over the last 2 years, even if it hasn't been quite as strong this last year. We needed the breather to have a healthy market, in my opinion. I mean, it's not sustainable going up like it was, and I don't want it to be either. Inflation's not a good thing when it's too much,
Well,
but
especially for the locals, because our wages don't keep up the way
not
the
at
big
all.
cities do. Yeah.
Not at all. But we still, I mean, I think the underlying thing, until they can build more houses, we're going to be behind. We're
Well, it
always
seems like there's a
behind.
lot of new construction. We should have Brad Bennington back on because it's hard to get somebody to even help you with repairs on your house now because everybody's working for the builders.
Yeah. Yes. He probably have a much better grasp as far as what's coming in, but I know on my way into work coming down Foothill now, they've just opened up that road between McAndrews and Hillcrest.
Oh, they
And
got all that construction done on the road?
yeah, so they're not done, but we can drive through it now. So you can see two pretty big intersections in the middle of that. So unfortunately, I mean, I grew up with Hillcrest Orchard right down the street. So,
Yeah.
it's kind of sad, but I don't know how we stop progress. On one hand, we want, a lot of houses so people have a place to live. On the other hand, it doesn't just come out of nowhere. So unfortunately, you got to
Yeah. Well, and
turn
they're
it
preparing
around.
for a huge amount of growth, what our locals would call a huge amount of growth. So,
Yes.
yeah, and that aqua center that they're building on the other side of town, that's supposed to bring in not only a lot of visitors, but some more relocators, people who want to be here because of services like that.
Wow. I guess our little town's growing up. I don't know.
Yeah. Yep.
Gosh, I feel like I started it about 30 years ago when I sent all the block over for what we called the new Walmart over there on Highway 62, back where the old Costco was. I remember
Oh, wow. Okay.
building, yeah, just watching that thing going up and just thinking, I don't know. If you look at it now, it's just so much bigger than it even was right then. But it's still, you can't go into a store and not see someone if you've been around here a long
At
time.
least
So
one.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it
Yeah.
is still kind of a
So,
small town feel
yeah, it's
around
risky
here.
wearing your pajamas to Walmart because you are going to run into somebody.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So,
But
and it's interesting because the land out that way during the crash, 07, 08, depending on what neighborhood you were in, um, a lot of that was in foreclosure. Some of those lots, those commercial lots, got scooped up, and we all kind of sat around and said, well, who's going to want to like be all the way out there?
oh man, I no, it's absolutely true. And I remember when everything went weird up on Hillcrest and all that half developed land. I think those are all sold now. Um, as you go up Hillcrest above that interchange now, above Foothill. I mean,
Oh
those
yeah,
stalled for
Bella.
years. I,
Yeah, and it had the waterfall. Yeah, I think that went into foreclosure twice.
yeah.
We were just at a sighting this morning. We were talking about that with somebody who was around when that happened, and they just bought one of those brand new, beautiful houses, and they're on half-acre lots. And it's going to be hard to find half-acre lots before too long because they're all getting kind of sliced and diced down.
Yeah, and maybe the answer is just get an older house on a bigger lot, and then we do have renovation loans and different things that you can do as you purchase your house. You can incorporate that into it and maybe turn a bigger lot into the house that you want to be in.
Yeah, we should talk about that. We wanted to loop back and go over interest rates again. Um, how many did we have in what period of time? Do we know exactly?
As
And
far
do
as
you
the
think they're
interest rate
done?
hikes,
Huh?
oh, they're done. There's really nobody. I mean, they're even starting to change their forecasts now to where they might start lowering the interest rates a little earlier next year. I mean, at first it was kind of like, oh, we might have to have another hike or two, and then it was thinking, well, maybe we'll lower them later next year, and now they're talking, well, maybe earlier next year. So I don't know. It's whatever's the most expedient thing to try to get reelected. It's going to happen. So we'll have to see. I mean, it's everybody's guilty of that. Politics or politics, and unfortunately, us as citizens, we're just kind of sitting back watching it. But I think that before the election, they'll have a really good handle on inflation, and anyway, we should see some pretty good drops. But
So I wonder if people hearing this can get themselves ready, then 2024 could also be a really good time to buy and sell. And we're seeing increase in inventory, at least in Southern Oregon, across all three counties. It's in fits and starts, but we check it every week, and it looks like people are starting to put their homes on the market.
yeah, at some point, everybody can't wait, and I think that there was maybe some people that took their houses off the market, discouraged, that'll throw them back on now also. I was talking to another agent this morning that was mentioning that with a listing she had. But we've had 3 weeks now, a little over, and it's been pretty sustainable. When we've had two other times this year where it kind of head faked us, where we thought we were gonna, see a more sustained rates go down, but all of the economic data coming out, the jobs reports, pretty much everything is showing, kind of a slowdown in the economy, which is what we were after. If you create a third of the nation's wealth, over a year's period, like they did during COVID, you're going to have some inflation, and then you shut down pipelines and things. And I think some people are realizing that as much as we'd all love to be on solar, we're not there yet. And so we're seeing fuel prices come down a little bit. They're making some concessions there. And overall, the signs are for, rates to come down. So, I mean, all the numbers coming out, we'd get messed up with the jobs number, and then we'd think everything's good again and something else would happen. But that's not happening this time around. It really feels like we're actually getting a sustainable drop in rates. And I'm actually quoting people over a percentage point less than I was quoting them a few weeks ago, believe it or not.
On the few seconds we have left before the break, about what could people expect to pay right now?
Honestly, it is so FICO driven. There's like 26 things that go into quoting a rate, but I'm on the government stuff in the mid sixes, and I've actually locked people in the sixes this week.
Wow. Well, we got to take a quick break. We'll be back with Guy Giles in a quick second. Don't go away. Well, hey, Southern Oregon, you're listening to the Real Estate Show on the ACE Radio AM 1300, our new home. We're so happy to be here. And we have Guy Giles from Mutual Mortgage with us today. Guy, we were just wrapping up some interest rate conversation, and we were getting ready to talk about construction.
Yeah, I closed on a couple of them recently, and it's just a good way. If you can't go find that house that you're after, then maybe it's time to just build your own. And anyway, we've got construction with VA, with FHA. We can put manufactureds on property if that's
Wow.
after. Conventional, we do them all in-house with a one-time close. And the nice thing is, at the end of your construction, if rates are down, we'll float you down and give you that lower rate. So
Oh,
you're
that's
not
super
necessarily
cool.
stuck with today's rates. So it might not be a bad thing to look into, figuring you're probably going to be 6 months or so out. That ought to be about the time we're starting to see some really good relief in rates. So, I don't know. It's just a good program.
So on the construction, going back to the VA construction, new construction, typically VA is a no money down program. How does that work with new construction?
Well, it's kind of the same thing. You're just financing it in. You'll basically do an appraisal on the place, just like it was it was an already built house. So you get your plans and specs, and an appraiser would come take a look, so you know what your house is going to be worth when it's done.
When you start.
Yes, yes.
Very cool.
When you start. So, we factor in, a few percent for contingencies in case there's overruns and things like that. But that's probably something for a conversation face to face rather than on here. Cause
Well, there's a lot of variables. Yeah.
but
It's really interesting that you'll do manufactured on land. Cause a lot of people won't do that. And it's a great housing alternative in Southern Oregon. It's very common.
there's a lot of people. I mean, there's just a lot of changes right now, and a lot of it stems from the liquidity that banks are required to have, and people lost a lot of deposits with, being able to switch over money into CDs, into treasuries, and into just all kinds of investments where they can get 4 or 5%, but their regular checking account, they were sitting there getting 0.5% for it. So it's made some of these banks not have the liquidity that they want to be able to lend out money. I think Wells Fargo just stopped doing equity lines of credit. I believe Chase stopped doing them a while back. So probably you're going to see a lot of that happening, with the bigger banks. We still have a really good equity product. So if you need to come talk about that, we have standalones. We have, to where they're second mortgages, but it's a good tool if you want to keep your 2.6% rate, but you might want to consolidate some debt or something that you got up. I'm not a huge proponent of using your house as an ATM, but in this environment we're in right now with people having more credit card debt than ever, it might be a viable option too.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, like, what do people use that money for?
Well,
Is it commonly used to get yourself out of trouble credit wise, or are they buying a second home? Like, where do they use that money?
Traditionally what I've done it for is pulling money out for, turn that one into an investment, take money out, and then, you have that sitting there, and then you can use it to buy another house. But people use them for a little bit of everything. I mean, you just, I don't do a lot of them other than the purchases, but I have heard of other loan officers and, within my organization that are doing a whole lot of equity lines of credit right now.
So, are there people doing these equity lines of credit for like really expensive vacations, or are you seeing more straightforward investing, college, something like that?
I've seen it for all of that, but I rarely for a vacation or something. Usually it's a vacation that they already took. So, I mean, if you can,
okay.
you can pay for that, beforehand, that's probably a much better way to go. Again, I don't want to say, hey, just go spend all your money and let's use your house as an ATM, because that's really what happened in 06 when everything crashed before. So, but in the right circumstances, it can be a good tool.
Well, and it sounds like as a lender, there's like no rules about it. You, as a homeowner, you can do whatever you want with the money. Is that?
Yeah, it's your money as far as that goes. It's kind of between you and your tax advisor, whether or not that's tax deductible. A lot of people say it is, and the rule, says it isn't. Nobody does anybody check? No, but again, that'd be a conversation to have with your CPA. But I actually took out an equity line, even though I don't need the money, but it's sitting there right now. And if I fix up one of my rentals, I just thought in case I run over or need to do something on that, I'll have it kind of available. But one thing that people just have to be super, super careful about right now with credit card debt as high as it is, as these banks, are worried about having liquidity. If you're, over 50-60% on your credit card, there's talk that these banks might come back and lower your credit limit if they start getting concerned that you're going to get too over your skis as far as debt goes. So say you have a 740 FICO score, and all of a sudden a couple banks come in and lower your credit limits, and maybe you were at a 50%, which really didn't look that bad for a FICO score. lowered your credit limit, I mean, you could lose 100 points on your FICO score if they decide
Wow.
to take your $10,000 limit down to 7,500 where you owe on it. And I don't say that to scare people, but carrying high balances could potentially get you down the road.
Yeah, I don't think people know that. And that's really aggressive because they're not even letting you use the whole balance that they gave you from the beginning, is what you're
No,
saying.
but those types of debts are dischargeable in a bankruptcy. So it's just one of those things that, your student loans, you can't do that with, of course,
I see.
federal money.
That's
But
what they're worried about.
if they're, people are getting too bad every 7 years, there's some people that just get a little reset.
Huh.
Anyway, just something to think about. If you can pay down your credit cards, gosh, it's just going to be so much better
Well,
for you.
the interest rate is so high, it's a good idea anyway. Plus, I think it keeps a lot of people up at night. How do you look at medical debt? Because I heard there had been some changes in that.
Yeah, there is some of it that you can omit as far as that goes. And what we do is we run our what we call DU or LP, and one of them's for Fannie Mae and the other one's for Freddie Mac.
And what do those mean?
Just meaning it's a like kind of a like an automated system. We plug in everybody's information. It sees the credit report. It sees what's on there. And yes,
Oh, it's an analysis.
yes. They really like to have that system like everybody that they do a loan for. And there's just, you just have to be smart about the information you put in, make sure that it's accurate. And there are manual underwrites that we call if you don't get an approval, through that. But that's the first thing that we look at. And a lot of times it will not have us address at least the medical side of things. And they've eased up on that on the government stuff a lot. But it's not the end of the world if you might have an old collection. But the best thing to do if you have something on your credit report would be to come sit down and talk so that we can take a look and see exactly what that is. I've actually, when I was brand new to the business, had people address something on their credit report and pay it off. And it was actually an old wound that was completely healed up. And I cut it wide open when I told this guy to pay off his $30 bill for the phone company. And again, I was green back then. I didn't know what I was doing. And I thought I needed 3 more FICO points to get him the next pricing. And I ended up dropping him 30 points. Thankfully, my bank stepped up and we paid the difference. But anyway, I guess going into that thing alone, we're not credit repair people, but we're pretty good at looking at credit reports and might be able to, help you to do the right moves. If you do have some of that stuff that's, a lot of times it's just old and it's really not bothering you like you think it might be at this point.
So you're saying come in and have a conversation ahead of time because not all debts should be paid off if you're trying to position yourself financially to look good to buy a house.
Yeah, and again, sometimes something is old or so old that it's getting ready to drop off, or it's been healed and it does not do you any good to go back and pay that off because that'll just open up that old wound again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So how long are the pre-approvals good for? Because we were talking about people being surprised. We've got to take a quick break pretty soon here, but how often should people come back in?
Well, only if something materially changes. To be honest, if you're not racking up a bunch of debt, your income's about the same, other than rates, might be changing a little bit. I would say check in with me every 30, 45 days. I mean, but it should be good for like 90 days as far as on your credit report pull.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well,
I don't just automatically pull it every 90 days to make sure it's updated. If it's taking you a while to find your house,
yeah.
if
Yeah.
something major hasn't changed, we should figure we're all right still.
Yeah. Well, we're talking to Guy Giles Mutual Mortgage. We'll be right back after a quick word. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Real Estate Show. We're talking to Guy Giles of Mutual Mortgage. And just a quick reminder, this episode will be repeated on the ACE radio AM 1300 tomorrow, Sunday at 8 a.m. So Guy Giles, just a few minutes left before we wrap it up. What do you think the actual interest rate will be like in 90 days? So here we are, December, January, February, early March. Let's make some predictions.
I
Put you on the spot.
well, a lot of it's going to depend, obviously, on the factors that I talked about earlier. What's your credit score? How much is your down payment? What kind of loan are you doing? But I do anticipate, after the first quarter, solidly in the high sixes. Like I said, I'm already locking people in the sixes right now, and
Right now.
it's people that I had in the eights, just weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, will there be a little bit of a pullback or not? I think the general consensus is by the end of the year, mid sixes for next year. But I do see them going a little bit lower than that, just depending on, what the economic data is out there.
Mm-hmm.
And when we talked earlier about the Fed raising rates and maybe revising the Fed's plan to reduce them, we always want to keep in mind that the Fed doesn't dictate the mortgage rates. They do have something to do with your line of credit if you pull out a line of credit. So those should get cheaper as we go forward. But the overall inflation is what has to do with the Fed. And so we kind of run hand in hand when they raise rates and lower rates, just because we're both, as long-term investors, looking at inflation. But
Mm-hmm.
just so if they come in and they drop it a quarter point or a half a point, that doesn't automatically translate to mortgage rates. Usually we factored in those kinds of things way before the Fed even has a chance to move, because again, our people are looking out for 30 years from now, and nobody wants to get caught, in the wrong rate for
Mm-hmm.
years.
Are you doing any refis yet? Like from people
I
who bought a few months ago in the eights?
No, not as far as that goes. I mean, I am doing a few refis right now because people do have equity. They've gotten into loans that they just need to get out of at this point, a couple private notes and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that we will see a lot of refinances, starting up. And like I said, when we talked about kind of the rehab loan, we can maybe talk about that more next time. But some people are starting to come in and just think, well, I like my neighborhood. I like a lot. The house isn't perfect, but let's add on to it a little bit, or do something there. So we do have home style renovations, some different things that we can look at for you know the FHA is actually that would be a good thing to talk about next time, because they've just changed their program as far as their 203Ks, trying to
Oh,
make
did
it a
they?
little bit more attractive to do. So
Oh,
I would
good.
definitely bring some more information.
Yeah, let's talk
Yeah.
about that next time. But if we get too many people fixing up their house and not moving, then we still have low inventory.
That is our one issue.
We always want you to do what's best for you, but I'm just saying, looking out into the future. But those rehab loans are great. They really are. And then you don't have to move. And there's certainly something to be said for that. But I'm just wondering, supply wise, because we don't have a lot of supply still in Southern Oregon. We're still waiting for that to kind of kick in. It's a little bit better than it was, but we need it to get quite a bit better, I think.
I agree, and I still, I mean, go out and look, call Alice up, maybe go look at some houses, see if there is something you like out there before you go, and before you go and remodel your house, because that perfect one might just be sitting out there for a bargain right now.
Yeah. And even though we're thinking the prices are going to end up finishing only down maybe 5 or 10%, that's still 5 or 10%. And you're not arm wrestling people. Remember, not that long ago, Guy, it was really hard for people to even compete.
Oh my goodness, they were. I joke around about offering 30,000 more and offering to mow their lawn for a year. It almost felt like that. It was crazy, the amount that it took. And again, we're seeing some concessions right now, and I feel like I'm talking out the both sides of my mouth, because I keep looking at these national numbers and they are up for the year, and I still can't believe that Jackson County will actually be down for the year. I don't know.
Well, we'll see.
I
We'll
don't know. We
see.
could bet lunch, I guess.
We've got, because we're having such a busy December, all those numbers will hit and be calculated right at the end or the first part of January. And we'll see. It could go either way, but I think it's going to be up. I think all three
Oh, I do
counties
too.
are going to be up just a smidge.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were thinking that they would be down a little bit.
Well,
The
every week.
neighborhoods, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, every week. But it's kind of remarkable that people are buying these really nice houses for 390 in East Medford, older houses. And
Mhm.
then in Central Point, we had some closings, under 400, and they were hardwood floors and granite countertops. And it's like, what? But I think it's temporary, and I'm predicting that it's a sign that we're bottoming, but it's still volatile, and that's why you've got both sides. We've got up and down,
Yeah, so
right?
look for that. Yeah, look for that person that needs to move. I mean, like I said, I think earlier
Yeah,
that,
that's a really good strategy.
well, yeah, that one from this week, to have a price reduction and then have them give $8,000 on top of it. It was
Hmm.
just
Were they
uh,
trying to buy another house?
I'm not on that end of it, so I don't really know. I'm working with the buyers. Is all I know is they're just a hardworking family that's never bought a house before. They're in their 60s.
Oh, that's
And
fun.
this is why I do what I do. And I'm
Yeah,
so excited for them. And she screamed on the phone when I told her that the rates had actually gone down from when I initially talked to her also. So
yeah,
it's been a good week.
yeah.
A lot happier
Well, but
phone
it's
call.
but it's busy, and again, it's very unusual to have that. I'm trying to remember the last time this happened. We'll have to go back and check the stats, because I do
Yeah.
remember that we had a winter like this when we were coming out of the crash of
Mhm.
'08, and we all kind of looked around and went, oh, it's gotten busy. And then boom, we were starting our recovery.
Well, the
So,
quantitative easing from the Fed is what really started all that. By that, I mean the Federal Reserve stepped in and bought a bunch of the mortgage-backed securities and dropped rates. I mean, that wasn't the 2.6% that we saw 2 years ago, but it crashed the rates just basically overnight. I remember Thanksgiving week, when the news first came in, I was getting ready to leave town for Thanksgiving, go visit with some friends, and I think I locked. I don't even know how many people, probably 15 or 18 people, as
oh
I was
wow.
driving down, and that was a lot of refis going on right at the moment, but locked all those people on Interstate 5 driving down the freeway, just letting my wife drive. And it was crazy back when I worked at Chase. And maybe the Fed steps in and starts, adding a little bit of mortgage-backed securities to their portfolio this next year also. And that could help the rates quite a bit. But I think people are ready for something a little lower than what we've been dealing with for a while.
Well, and just stability, if you get too much volatility, it not only interferes with people's ability to do their transactions, they get scared, and rightly so, because it's so hard to predict and make a decision. And gosh, buying a house is such a big, monumental life decision.
Well, yeah, and if part of you is on the fence thinking maybe I'm paying, well, not maybe, I'm paying more than I was buying this new house, and then you go fill up your car and then you start adding up all those dollars, it is an overwhelming, scary thing, but I think that we're seeing relief all the way around, at least on the inflation side. We needed a little bit of a recession to just kind of slow things down. And
Yeah. Do you think that the recession will get deeper next year? So we've got opinions in both camps.
well, I think so. I mean, but there's still a lot of people that need to buy, and I think that recession, at least in our world, is going
Mm-hmm.
to translate to a better real estate market. And
Mm-hmm.
I always feel bad about that. I mean, back when all the terror stuff was happening, before a terrorist attack would cause a drop in rates because it caused investors to want to flee toward more safe things. And same thing with the recession. People, will flee towards, if the stock market's not going crazy, they want a little bit of stability with their portfolios, and then they'll tend to invest in mortgage-backed securities and things that really do drive our mortgage rates.
Mm-hmm.
So I think everything is pointing towards good rates for next year. I mean, and recessions are just part of this type of an economy that need to happen.
Well,
And
and housing market frequently brings the economy out of a recession. So we'll have to see about that.
yeah, I I think that's probably the brightest spot out there right now, even though it hasn't been for this last year. I think it's the brightest one looking forward.
Yeah. Well, real quick, how do people call you? Because you do answer your phone. We just got about 10 seconds left.
Yeah, 541-944-6987, and just give me a call. Shop me against whoever you're looking at. I don't know of anybody around here that'll beat me on rate and fee.
Yeah. Guy Giles, Mutual Mortgage. We appreciate your sponsorship. Everybody have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.
Hey, thank you.